Triple XL up in the pen, you can't shake that. All the way gassed up, full tank, man. Moving too quick, keep the cameras in the playback. Dang, so tell me how you feel with it. You put a lid on it, I ain't got no chill with it. This right here your problem, you gon' have to deal with it. Lay it on the line, high risk, that's the meal ticket. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at, never fall back. No lies, no facts, we gon' stay right where we at. We ain't never fall back. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. And you can find me where I'm at. We ain't never fall back. We ain't never fall back. And you can find me where I'm at. We ain't never fall back. Been way down, never falter. Came with the hands out, get them off us. I'm 24/7 in the office. Pay attention cause I ain't repeating offers. Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need a hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at. We ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at. Never fall back. We ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at. Yeah. No lies, all facts. You can find me right where I'm at. We ain't never fall back. We ain't never fall back. Yeah. We ain't never fall back. And you can find me where I'm at. We ain't never fall back.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. We always start the show off by showing those companies love who make this podcast possible. Guys, first and foremost, guys, this company has been great to work with. I love the people that I work with, and I really think they have something to offer each and every one of you out there to at least take a try, give it a chance, especially when you hear at the end what they're doing for the HVAC Uncensored Nation. Guys, the only app every HVAC company needs, Company Cam, makes it dead simple to communicate, document, and problem solve with your technician no matter where you are. Company Cam brings documentation, communication, and liability protection together in one simple, easy-to-use app for you and your entire team. Take unlimited photos and videos, share custom reports, create flawless before and afters, and even communicate and share progress with property owners with galleries and project timelines, all from your smartphone. Company Cam is the only app every HVAC company needs. Guys, check it out at companycam.com/HVAC Uncensored. Get yourself a free 14-day trial. Free. Cost you nothing. Free. 14 days. If you don't like it, hey, didn't cost you a dime. Hey, it's not for me. Don't use it. But if you do like it, Company Cam is going to give you guys 50% off your first 2 months. All right? I highly suggest you guys check it out. I've been doodling around in a demo account, and I love it. I love it to the point that I think that, Beltway, we're going to discuss it in one of our leadership meetings as something that we can use because I really think that it's going to help us provide that better service for our customer going into the future with pictures and how we present all that stuff. All right, so please check that out. Company Cam has been great to work with. Last but not least, is going to be my friends over at Yellow Jacket. Absolutely love what these guys are doing. They've been, knocking it out of the park for 70 years. Most of you know I'm a second-generation HVAC tech, 20-plus years in the trade. I always think back to those days working with my dad that I cherish so much. My dad always said, your tools are an extension of yourself. If you buy quality tools and take care of them, they'll take care of you. Most of the time, you only have to buy them once. Well, that brand I think back to is Yellow Jacket. They've been making quality products for 70 years and counting, making them right here in the USA. They never cheaped out when other companies decided to send stuff overseas, and that says a lot about a company. If you're looking for quality tools that you can depend on, look no further. Yellow Jacket is the place you need to look at. They've been trusted by my family for generations now, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Guys, remember, 70 years of expertise built into every tool. So if you're going to buy some new tools for the summer wave, check out Yellow Jacket. if you decide that you're not going to do Yellow Jacket, which I advise against, check out my friends at True Tech Tools and use the discount code Uncensored to save 8% on your order. You cannot buy Yellow Jacket from True Tech Tools. That's why I say that. Normally, Yellow Jacket, you got to find your local supply house. But if you do decide to get something else and you can't buy it locally, check out True Tech Tools. Mr. Bill Spone and what those guys, Eric and them, do. They're amazing people, and they've created an awesome platform for HVAC technicians to get everything that they need. So discount code Uncensored to save 8% on your order. All right, guys, let's get this pledge knocked out. We have an awesome guest tonight, an amazing show, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States, and thank you to all those men and women who defend it.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome to the #1 rated HVAC podcast. If you're looking to grow in the HVAC industry, then you're in the right spot. Blue collar people talking about blue collar shit. Let's get better together. So turn up the volume, buckle your seatbelt, and let's welcome your host, Gil KV Jr.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. I'm your host, Gil KV Jr. 2 episodes this week. One last night, one tonight, both killer. I think this one's going to be even as good and better than last night. I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. I had the pleasure of watching my friends at the Service Business Mastery podcast, Tersh Blissett and Joshua Crouch, interview this man at AHR in Las Vegas, and it sucked because I was so busy trying to run around because of, obligations, but I wanted to sit there and listen because it was so intriguing. And let's be honest, we all know that you guys are full of opinions, and the sad thing is I can't wait for you guys to hear some things because you're wrong. That's all I'm going to say. So, guys, without further ado, I would like to introduce the co-founder and CEO of Cardone Ventures, Mr. Brandon Dawson.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, thanks for coming. This is awesome, man. So it's like I said before, I think this is awesome that we can give some of these people like your background, because like we talked off air is, these texts and these people are like, oh my God, somebody new's coming in. We got to push back. This can't be good. But I don't think that's the case at all. And I guess just let these people know a little bit about you and how this came about.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business in my late 20s. I acquired 130 healthcare businesses, took them public on the American Stock Exchange at 29 years old. I was private equity backed. And in 2002, my private equity group decided to sell the company without asking me my opinion. And I think that formulated in my mind a different way you need to build businesses so that somebody else can't call you one day and take control of your destiny. So I decided I was going to go formulate a new strategy in growing businesses. And that strategy was, instead of me acquiring and then operationalizing it, I decided to partner with independent business owners and bring the infrastructure that consolidation companies have, large scale organizations, to those independent business owners so that they too can grow and scale and create massive value with the same resources the big organizations have, the same leverage, the same access to technology and to systems and process and procedures and professionals. And then instead of me acquiring them and letting them have 20% of the upside that we create together, we do it the opposite way. We partner with them and we get 25% of the upside that we help create together. And if we don't create any upside, they fire us. So there's no risk for the business owner. And I launched that business in 2005. I was told I would never be able to succeed at it. Again, it was in healthcare. And in 14 years, without $1 borrowed, not $1 invested, I created a business that did $50 million in profits. We managed 1,000 locations on behalf of 250 independent business owners. And then we sold that management company for 77 times EBITDA, $151 million. And then we grew a $1 billion public company to $4 billion in 36 months. And then after that, I partnered with Grant Cardone, taking all these scaling concepts, all the technology, all the principles, and all the methodologies and that I owned. And we launched a new business called Cardone Ventures 36 months ago. And in 36 months, we now manage over $1 billion of businesses across hundreds of different industries, and in particular, over $500 million in home services.
That's awesome. That is amazing. So I know a lot of people ask me, and I think I already know the answer, but I would love to hear yours is, what made you want to get into the home service, the HVAC? Like, what did you think, like, hey, this is a good place to get? Like, what made you want to take that avenue?
It's a great question. In 2009, I hired a $1 billion consulting firm, FTI, out of Chicago, and I said, based on my own experiences and the roll-up strategies, consolidation strategies, what private equities looking at, why they move into certain markets, what they pay and when they do that, and what are the lead indicators that bring private equity into businesses. In 2009, 10, and 11, we broke down thousands of industries and focused on top 100 future opportunity marketplaces. And HVAC was in the top 3 of that list in 2009, 10, and 11 for future businesses that private equity would want to dominate. And we refreshed that work in 2016, 17 with IGS out of Boston. It's a big consulting firm that all the private equity guys use. And HVAC was in the top 2. And the reason for that is, unlike some of the other home services businesses, HVAC kind of touches everything. And as you take and you go into homes that are aging, and all of a sudden you start getting involved with HVAC, you can do a lot of things when you start ripping walls and doors and upgrading technologies. You can start connecting new technologies, things like Wi-Fi, things like security, things like lighting, curtains, homes, TVs, everything can all be connected onto one system, which is what you saw in the commercial application with telecom in 2007, 8, and 9, with home audio, commercial audio, security, cabling, key cards, IT infrastructure. It all converged into one company, like the telephone integrators, because they could do everything now when they rolled into the business. And that spilled over into upgrading homes. And so new homes, it's already included, but then you have millions and millions of homes that are running on old technology. Now, if you're going to go in and you're just going to simply put siding on the house, you're not in the guts of the house. So there was a determination that HVAC, because of what you would do to retro the inside of the house, you could get it everywhere and run lines and do things. You could actually converge smart technology on top of retroing HVAC systems and the energy savings and all this. So this was all predicted in 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then we started tracking the Ebitda multiples. A lead indicator into a hot market is Ebitda multiples. What private equity or strategic businesses are willing to pay for independent businesses. And 10 years ago in the HVAC space, it was 4.5 to 5.5 for businesses under, call it 15, 20 million. In the last 5 years, it's gone to 6.5, 7.5. And now all of a sudden it's 8, 8.5. And if you have a business, as you saw with some transactions recently that are $200 million businesses, they were acquired for 22 times EBITDA. That's what public companies, that's more than public companies trade for. So you look at the indicators of valuations being paid for businesses, and it tells you there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger purpose. So when private equity moves in and starts paying 18, 20, 22 times EBITDA for businesses doing a couple $100 million, and there are not a lot of them, but when they make that move, the next move is to go down to the 25, 30, 40, $50 million businesses and try to pay 12 to 15 times EBITDA because they have to augment their big purchase. And so when you see that behavior in the marketplace across any industry, you know it's a heating up market, and you understand why, which is the convergence in the different applications that when you go in to do an upgrade for HVAC, there's so many other things you can touch for data with the consumer that they want the data. They want to integrate it with the solar. They want to integrate it with the energy use. They want to integrate it with everything and anything that's being operated in that home can be fed into a data line that they can track. And when you install and upgrade HVAC, you get direct access to that information. When people are home, how much energy they use, what temperature they like things, what everything.
Yeah.
So that's why we're excited about the space.
No, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, and to be honest, as HVAC technicians and business owners, you should be excited for that, because you're 100% right. All these manufacturers are coming out with, different thermostats that now go with the security system. Like you said, the curtains, they're trying to make it all in one, and it's opening up avenues for us to really split from there. And the other part of it is, HVAC, like I always tell people when they get into business that you have to have an end game. And maybe you want to build that business that you pass down to your sons, and that's fine. That's okay. It's whatever you want. It's your business. But if you plan on selling it one day, like that is your retirement. You're building that to eventually sell it at some point. You got to ask yourself those hard questions, and you need to be talking to people, like you and stuff that you do about trying to scale it and make sure that your business is valuable. Somebody would actually want to buy it. It's worth what you think it is. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to sell it for like 10 million. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you know what I mean? Like your expectation and what your reality is actually going to give you is way far off. And the other thing before I forget is I want to make sure everybody knows, what exactly does Ebitda stand for? What does that mean?
Yeah. Earnings before interest, Ebitda, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So for most business owners, it's their profit.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So now
but if you're out buying a lot of heavy equipment and stuff, you as a private business owner, you want to take advantage of those purchases. But what you normalize that, you add it all back in when you look at the true profitability and cash flows of the business. I just want to say something to something you said. So in that research where we looked at hundreds of different industries, many of your listeners might remember when Blockbuster in Hollywood started heating up with the video stores, and there was 12,000 mom and pop video stores that got put out of business within 36 months. And then let's not forget that the behemoths, Blockbuster in Hollywood, ended up getting shut down within 36 months because a new technology came into the marketplace, of which they all had access to, but they ignored it because they were so busy on their flawed strategy. And if you go through industry after industry, if you look at the home audio space in 2007, 8, and 9, there was a massive overnight technical move in that space. And that was a transaction where Best Buy acquired Magnolia Hi-Fi, which was a $100 million, 3-location, family-owned audiovisual retail store that competed against the Circuit Cities and some of these other regionals. And they acquired that, and then they immediately stripped out 100% of the value in the equipment and put it all on a service platform and a warranty platform. And you may remember all these Magnolia Hi-Fis popped up inside of the Best Buys. Magnolia Hi-Fi went from a $100 million business overnight to a multi-billion-dollar global business inside of Best Buy. But the implication of that, there was 12,900 high-end home audio businesses that got condensed down to 4,200 because they did not know how to keep up with the devastation of all the margins getting wiped out of the 50-inch TV and the home theater installations. And it wasn't until 8 years later when Best Buy started paying their technicians so little versus what they were making before that the experienced people left. And when those experienced people left, they went back into the marketplace, and people that paid less from places like Best Buy were underwhelmed. So then those technicians started their own businesses, and they converged technologies. So home audio, theaters, and TVs all of a sudden did the same thing the HVAC people are doing. They started putting in the windows automation. So now home automation is the new language for audio visual. And if you remember all the AV stores that were all over town where you would run into the regional, well, 2/3 of them got wiped out. And the people that got wiped out were the slammers, the ones at the bottom that didn't know how to make money, and they were offering buy stuff free and get it cheap because it became irrelevant because you could get that at Best Buy. And the large enterprise-based businesses that were so top-heavy, they did not know how to react quick enough to that market shift. And the people who survived were what I call tweener businesses. They were family-owned businesses that could adjust and adapt, and they were just conservative enough. They weren't over-leveraged, but it allowed them to pivot just enough to survive long enough that now those businesses are 3 to 10 times bigger than they were when all the competition was in place, because they navigated through that window of time, and then they collected all the great technicians, and then they converged multiple product offerings into their business. You asked me about home care or home services. Well, that's the same thing that's happening. All of a sudden, somebody that does windows now does windows, roofing, and gutters. Somebody who did roofing is now doing solar and other elements. So there's this converging of multiple markets because you have the same customer relationship. And if you look, what we've done over the last 15 years is we've studied dozens of those convergences or disruptions. And we look at predictors for what high valued industries will be. And that if I was in HVAC right now, I'd be listening to this conversation because I'm telling you something the private equity people don't want you to know. But yet, if you look at their behavior in their space, with the last 6 months, there's been 3 massive acquisitions. There'll be a third shortly of those businesses that are 100 million or bigger because they want to get all the top tiers so they can put leverage on every market. And then they want to buy the middle tier as cheap as possible so they can augment their purchase. I'm telling you right now, if you're an independent business owner and you're doing between 5 million and 100 million and you want to dominate, you want to crush the valuations in your business, you need to know what to look for. You need to know what to do. You need to know how to find, attract, align, and incentivize your key people to retain them. And you need to know how to position yourself within the marketplace. And if you're willing to open your mind up and understand that instead of live like you were 10 years ago, you will create more value in the next 3 to 5 years than you've created in the history of owning your business. I promise you that.
That's awesome. That makes perfect sense. I mean, a lot of people don't realize the gold mine that we sit on, and HVAC has made more millionaires than a lot of other trades. And a lot of those people, they're quiet millionaires. We talked about it last night. They're not the ones that you look at the guy and maybe he doesn't drive all these fancy cars, but guy's got money in the bank and lives how he wants to live. So it's something that people need to stop thinking about this as just like a 9 to 5. It's just a trade. You know, I think there's too many techs out there that, you know, even as not even a business owner, a technician standpoint, you know, you can make $150,000, $200,000 a year doing it if you have the right mindset. These owners are the same way, that this is an avenue that kind of like real estate is, how people make all that money in real estate. Well, you can do that in HVAC as well. And I think that the mindset has to change. I think that we can't get passed up. Like what you were saying, as things happen, you want to be on the front of something that's coming, not on the ass end of it. Because if you're on the ass end of it, you missed it.
Yeah, well, and here's the sad thing. I mean, see, I'm 70% of the businesses I work with are family-owned businesses. I'm very sensitive. My wife works with me. My brother works with me. My wife's brother works with us. Grant's family works at we're very sensitive to family businesses. And to be honest with you, they've been so taken advantage of by the different investment vehicles and consolidators in the marketplace, because they know what those small business owners don't know. If you don't know how to professionalize your team or retain your team, if you don't know how to develop new competencies with new team members and get them to get up to speed faster on how to perform in the business and support the business, if you don't know how to market properly and sell properly and manage your finances properly, and if you don't know how to systematize your business with technology so you can take advantage of all the beautiful opportunities with data, like the big groups know this, and that's why they get bigger when the small businesses continue to struggle. And so here's the good news though. When we looked at the 3,000 industries over the last 15 years and took it down to the 100 top industries, that mindset is no different from one industry to another. People ask me, how do you know about HVAC? Like, what do you guys know? And I always like the haters. And I'm like, I got a lot of hate after I did that podcast. And I'm like, okay, look, anybody that wants to dispute me and ask me any question, let's do a live show. I don't care if it's an independent business owner. I don't care if you're a private equity person. I don't care if you exited and let's just do a live show. Let's let everyone, in fact, get 10 of your friends, Pepper me with any question you want, and I'm going to counter it with a question that I guarantee you don't know the answer to. Because here's the thing. I don't need to know what you do. That's what your expertise is. I'm not working with people that are on the low-end slammers. I'm working with the mid-tier business owners who are committed to their team, committed to their family, committed to their community, committed to their customers, committed to their brand, and they want to be able to preserve the value they've created for their family and their team members in a community where they want to be respected for being the best. Those are the people I work with. And here's the thing. They don't need to focus on selling their business. They need to learn how to create massive value and integrate all these wonderful things and elements that are happening in the marketplace so they can be the dominant player. So when they do hand it off to their kids, do you know how many businesses I've had to get involved in when the parents die, hand the business off to their kids, and it's an absolute disaster because no one has formulated the business or structured it so it can survive beyond the entrepreneurial spirit. And at some point, if your business is going to go from 3 million to 8 million, 8 million to 15 million, 15 to 25 million, 25 to 45, 45 to 75, 75 to, those are 7 technical moves, breakpoints that require different elements to be in place to stack and grow your business. No one would go build a building and not engineer it and not have it stress tested and continue to add floor after floor after floor because they just want a taller building. And yet that's how they go build their businesses. And it's sad to watch a history of businesses, 100 years, 50 years, 70 years of legacy, second, third generation get passed on and have it become irrelevant and absorbed by a bigger brand because they were ill prepared to take advantage of the movement and the shifts and the opportunities within the marketplace. Those are the things Grant and I bring to people. We don't come in and dominate and take over and cram down on them. That's what the consolidators do. We try to lift them up to be a better version of themselves and create massive value. Since they're already trading time for money, they might as well make it easier and make it more and pass more around to their team than have it be harder. So working easier, smarter, and creating more value contrasted to practicing and trying to figure it out by yourself and working harder until somebody comes along and takes it from you.
That's awesome. I love that, Brandon, the way you said that. And that's true. You're not going there to teach their technicians how to change a compressor. You're there teaching owners how to grow their business and scale it and be more profitable. I want to ask you this. A lot of people, especially when it comes into sales, not to go off too far on a rant here, is what you guys do. Does it depend the region of the country that they're in? So normally it's the processes and systems don't matter as long as you're doing those things correctly.
No, it doesn't matter the region. It doesn't matter the country. When I sold to the $1 billion company and grew them from 1 to 4 billion, we expanded them in 10 countries within 36 months, impacting. Because here's what my experience is in business. When you're working with someone who's excellent or remarkable at what they do, okay, you have to be great at what you do. No one's going to suggest otherwise. And this is the problem when people get acquired by the financial guys is they start trying to change what they do because they want to pinch out every dollar. So they start changing how they treat their clients, what they spend their money on, how they compensate their teams. They can't have office parties anymore because they don't want to spend the extra money. It just gets ridiculous at some point. And so it changes the culture of the business. So there's 3 things you need to be a remarkable organization and create massive value. 1, you need cultural alignment with your team. You need people loving come to work. They're able to succeed personally, professionally, and financially. You're giving them an opportunity to do better, make more. You're developing them to elevate their own personal success working for you so they have a clear picture of how they can succeed. So that's the cultural aspect of your business. The second is the operational aspect. How many business owners that are 5 million or 10 million or 20 million can afford an 8-person infrastructure that knows how to build a $1 billion company with all the tech, all the idea, all the leadership skills? They have to piecemeal it and try to hire it, and they can't really afford it because those people are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Well, you have business owners not even in some cases making that kind of money. And then the third thing is the financial contribution. How do you actually engineer your business to give you the highest return on effort so that you have more to offer your technicians, your employees, and your family in order to create, even invest in alternative assets or invest in more assets in your business or convert the rental facility to an owned facility. Like the strategies to create value and net worth, most people don't have that kind of help. And so, and a lot of them can't afford that kind of help. So it's an unfortunate catch-22 for business owners, because they can only afford what they can afford when they can afford it. And then they hire people that don't know how to help them become more valuable, become larger, more successful, attract better talent until they get bigger. And then they're still trying to catch up to where they're at. So it just continues to be a catch-up game versus if you knew how to get to 100 million and you knew the 7 break points to 100 million, and you knew the 3 to 5 things that needed to be in each break point, and you understood what quality of talent you needed at each break point, and you had a visual representation. You knew the competencies, you knew the skill sets, you knew the contributions, you knew the key performance indicators to, like, for every person in your business to go from 1 million to 100 million, and you had that crystal ball and you had the plan to do it with the economic structure that creates maximum value, would you be able to move faster? And the answer to that is, of course. That's why the private equity guys are racing to get to 200 or 300 million, so they have it all in place and they can buy everybody cheap.
Yeah, no, that makes that makes perfect sense. So when you guys come in, the plan and the structure you have doesn't matter whether it's a 5, a 15, a 30, a 40. It's just what step you're starting on, correct?
Yeah, correct. Because I want you to think about if you're going to build a 10-story building, and you start with 1 story and you're finding success, so you throw another story and you find a little success. You throw a 3rd story, you find a little success. But you never stopped and had an engineer come in and say, hey, is this structurally sound? Is your concrete pad deep enough and thick enough to go 10 stories? Are your walls strong enough? Are your beams and supports in the right places? Now, I don't know. I can't go construct that building, but I know what logic is, and I've done enough work and been around enough buildings that fell down, just like businesses. So if you have a team of people that knows what a 100 or a 500 or $1 billion business looks like, and they come down and they're helping you architect, they're showing you, hey, you need to put a beam in here, an I-beam, because your business won't support the next layer of growth you're going to put on it. Hey, guess what? You need to bolster, put some steel beams around your structure so that you can stack on top of it and go another 6 or 8 stories. Like, business owners don't have access to that. What they have access to are accountants that usually work by themselves and don't know how to build a business. They know how to they know how to account for it, but they don't know how to build it. So they're always trying to get costs out instead of investing in the things that create value. They get lawyers who are usually small town lawyers that don't know how to draft the right kind of employment agreements, don't know how to get around non-competes or non-solicitations or IP infringement. So they end up hiring people who steal their customers once they get big enough and they feel like, oh, I'm going to take the business away. There's just so many different things that happen, but all those things are predictable because statistically they happen so often. So if you knew what the predictable things were, you knew what kind of agreements to have in place, you knew what kind of technology to have in place, you knew what kind of leadership to have in place, you knew what decisions to make with attack speed, which is making the best decision with velocity at a moment in time that accelerates you to a higher level of success. If you had access to that and you could tap into it, wouldn't you want it? Yeah. Versus the reference. See, the reason people struggle when they hear a guy like me or Grant coming into the territory or into their space is they think we're going to take something away from them because they're so used to other people doing that. Yep. I guarantee you, if you're a listener on this show and you've got a business that's 25 to 50 million, you've been screwed by employees who've tried to start new businesses, take your clients away from you and take your technicians. Anybody that's built a business of any size have had multiple cycles of someone taking from them. So their mindset is, as they get bigger, it becomes more valuable. They become more fearful that the next person is going to take something from them. And this is true for every industry and every business. If you knew how to prevent that or minimize it or mitigate it, and you could actually align with somebody who's willing to help you do it and create massive value faster, wouldn't you want to know that's there? And the answer is the people that are on Facebook's talking shit about Grant and I, because I fucking get all that sent to me. You know what I say to every one of them? I tell people the only reason they're worried about us is because they have their own agenda and we don't fit into that agenda. So when people are out trying to consolidate or they're out trying to buy, they're going to feed it. They're going to feed inaccurate data into the Facebook groups to create fear and anxiety, stress, friction, and resistance with people wanting to meet us. But what those people don't know is the $500 million of HVAC people we're already working with, because I don't need to choreograph or explain or defend or tell anybody who I work with. They'll eventually figure it out. So I have eyes and ears everywhere. And the truth is, the people who can be persuaded that easily, I don't actually want to work with. The people who are projecting all that nonsense into the marketplace, I don't want to work with them. You know who I work with? I work with remarkable people who are generally family oriented, who love their community, love their employees, love what they do. They might have frustrating days or weeks or months, and they might have anxiety, but they love it. They've chosen to do it, and they want to get big and valuable, and they don't want someone to take that away from them. That's who I work with. And, none of those people are the flashy big mouth frogs that are running around trying to be big deals. They're just people with 10, 20, 50, $100 million businesses that just want to actualize and realize a successful, valuable organization that creates value. And that's who I work with. And most of those people aren't persuaded on the nonsense that people put out on Facebook or in their Facebook groups, or even that kind of conversation. They're just not interested in it.
Yeah, no, and those people they're not making their business decisions or how they're going to plan their business based off Facebook post either. So, before I get into a question I just had, or a comment I wanted to say, somebody put in the comments, I don't know if this is a question you can even answer. How are the Cardone Ventures deals structured? What percentage of equity? I don't know if.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like I could tell you all that. It wouldn't be material because there's no one answer. So it's relative to what the business owner wants from us and how deep they want to go with us. And if they want to co-acquire with us, or if they just want us to manage their business. We have relationships where people just simply pay us to help them. It's so simple. They just pay us to help them. They own 100% of their business. We get none of the upside. We have relationships where people have hired us to engineer their business, just like you would an architect, to build their blueprints, and then they hired us to manage the business to augment their team. We have no equity interest. We have people that have come to us and said, what would it take to get you more involved, to go deeper with us? And we say, well, how big do you want to get? And then we engineer their business and say, here's how big you can get. And then we negotiate, what do you want to give up versus what do you want to pay in fees versus what the circumstances are. Then we have some people that come to us and they say, we want to partner with you and we want to go acquire enough businesses to be 100 million regional player or whatever. So every conversation is unique based on the needs, the requirements, and desires of the business owner. But one thing is for absolute certain. No one is conformed into our ideal of how you need to operate culturally, operationally, or financially. We're a management company that supports and helps the enhancement of value, leaning into best practices and supporting the local teams on the local ground. Now, what we get back from them is going to be relative to what they want to accomplish and how fast they want to get there. And that's negotiated with every single owner that we work with.
That's awesome. And what you were saying earlier, I think that a lot of people, so granted, I know some of the big guys that have the big $100 million companies. Most of my friends that I talk to on a daily basis are the 5, 10, 15, maybe a few in the 20 range. And I think what really scared a lot of them is a lot of these guys that were out there years ago that were out there to help. And really all they did was fuck people over. People went in thinking they were doing the right thing. Then they lost their business. They got it taken out from under them. And there's not a fucking thing they could do about it. So now I think when somebody like you, like when you come in with good intentions and, things like that, that people, they don't know what to do. People get nervous. And they're like, sounds good. Is it too good to be true? So it's just, and I get it, but you have to take risk and you have to do things. And we all need help, and you can't reinvent the wheel. People like you know how to grow businesses. Other people do. Sometimes you have to take those risks. I know it's scary, but you have to do it.
Well, so here's what I try, because I coach business owners as little as $1 million and as big as $3 billion. Okay, so I always tell people, if you are sitting with someone who's speaking to you about things you're struggling with, like if you're sitting there in a room and someone's giving you a bunch of ideas and you're like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. But if it is your responsibility as a business owner to identify your pain points, to really acknowledge them and understand them. And then if you can go to someone who can directly relate to those pain points and then show you a crystallized way where you can overcome them, you can overperform those pain points, you can add value, then you're finally at a place where you can actually make a decision. But when you're polling, Polling, hey, what do you think I ought to do? Hey, what do you know about these guys? Hey, what do you know about them? Hey, what do you think they stand for? Hey, does anybody know any rumors about? When you're doing that, that's not polling. That's not identifying the things that you do well, identifying the things you're struggling with, and identifying the things you know you suck at, and that's keep you up at night and you're fucking freaked out by it. And then going and finding someone that can answer those questions in a logical, practical way. And then the next evolution of due diligence is go talk to people they actually work with and ask them to open their financials up and show them what's happened since they started working with them. So I'm a practical guy and I do everything by data. So I don't do it by emotion. When you have high emotion, you have low intelligence. So look, when people are being emotional, they're operating at low intelligence. Fear, anxiety, stress, that creates high emotion. So when someone's using emotion to try to coerce or manipulate or conform somebody, that's what they use in order to elicit that response. So here's my easy answer. Do your due diligence, do your homework, talk to people that actually have an experience and gauge what their experience has been. Go visit their business and say, what was it like before you started working with these people? What's it doing now? You know, formulating a practical decision. And I will tell you that sounds so easy, but in all industries we work with, that is unfortunately, most business owners are operating from a high level of emotion because they're so connected to the business and they're so afraid what could go wrong. But fear is a bigger motivator than opportunity. So what happens when you're using fear to make your decisions is you make bad decisions because you have high emotion, low intelligence. So what I try to tell business owners is strip the emotion out of it and ask yourself very practically, why would anybody care if Grant Cardone and I came into the HVAC space? Why would anybody care at all? Would they care because maybe they hope we can help them? Would they care because they think we're sleazy businessmen and we're going to take advantage of them? Would they care because maybe just maybe, we work against the agenda that other people for 10 years have been building in your space, and they might be the ones taking advantage of you and they're dangling some money in front of you? What I would say to you is in any one of those three categories, the only way you're actually going to know something is to experience something. Yeah. And you can't experience it once. None of you built your business by doing anything once. You have to engage, ask good questions, and make good determinations. And if you're capable of doing that, then I guarantee you we'll at least present a business case that will give you an option. But we also respect independent business owners should have the freedom to make whatever choice they want. But most of them lose that freedom because of the bad decisions that are made, and then they get trapped, either with personnel, banks, credit lines, whatever. So big contracts they sign, and then they get upside down in them. And we work with HVAC, commercial HVAC business owners. We work with new home construction, and we work with rental. And look, we work with them all, and we get to see all of that.
Yeah, and that's, and the other thing is, I know there was a lot of things, and maybe not what you guys do, but a lot of those like training-based or organizations that it felt like, and this used to be my opinion, and I'll be honest, I don't know how I feel now, but it was, you paid them to help you, and they would help you just enough that you got to keep paying them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it sounds that okay. So let me. So I appreciate what you just said, but you just described an employee or an executive. Do you hire an employee and pay him once and never expect anything back from him? Do you hire an executive and ask him to come to work for a month and don't pay him anymore?
No. That's...
You have to understand that growing and scaling a business requires three things to happen simultaneously. Your belief lid has to continue to go up, or you lose confidence and you settle. Your operational effectiveness lid needs to increase. Your ability to impact the decisions you're making bigger, better, faster, more profitably need to happen simultaneously as you're adding growth, or you end up you end up declining in value and adding growth, and then they break your business. And the third thing is you have to have strong me leadership to even start your business in the first place. It takes courage, it takes resilience. But then to build your business, you have to have strong we leadership, the ability to amplify and magnify that through everyone that represents you, your brand, your community, and your business. Now, all three of those lids have to operate consistently and continuously. So how can you go, if you're 1 million and you want to get to 3, of course you're going to pay people to help you get to 3. When you get to 3, you need different people. The people that helped you get to 3 probably don't have the experience to get you to 8. The people that get you to 8 probably don't have the experience to get you to 15. If they did, why are they helping you instead of doing it? So what happens is you stage your advice, you stage your guidance, and sometimes you get people that are just criminal and they really don't know what they're doing. But I still put that on the business owner. There's 3 questions I tell every business owner to ask anybody they're going to seek any advice, any wisdom, any counsel from. First, what's the most amount of money you've ever made in a year? If I'm a business owner making $500,000, why would I take the guidance of a consultant who makes $150,000 a year? Like, it makes no sense to me. Why would I talk to a lawyer who makes $200,000 a year? Why would I talk to my accountant who makes $250,000 a year? If I'm making $500,000, I am the highest earner in that group. Now, what I can ask them is for their technical advice, but I shouldn't listen to a single ounce of business advice. So when you're talking to people that haven't done what you're trying to do, you're going to get the wrong advice and you're going to be frustrated. So you owe it to yourself to ask anybody you're going to seek advice from 3 questions. Question number 1, what's the most amount of money you've ever made in a year? Second question, what's the biggest thing you've actually ever built? Quantified by how many employees do you have? How much revenue were you doing? What kind of profit margins? Because why should you listen to them if they've not built what you're trying to build? And then the third question is, what's the biggest exit you've ever had? The lawyers and the accountants have never exited anything. They guide advice on the legal aspects of it, but why would you listen to them on what you should do with your business? Even the bankers you hire in your small town, they're just trying to get their commission. I have done 192 deals in my career. Do you know how many deals I look at and I scratch? I'm in escrow on one right now where I scratch my head and I'm like, this is criminal. The people are selling their businesses for the net asset value of their business because the broker they hired, the local broker who does 25 other things, told them this is the value of your business. It's important and incumbent on the business owner to have the wisdom, to seek the knowledge, and to seek guidance and advice from people who are an example of where they want to go. And if they've wasted money paying people, if they spent money hiring the wrong people, if they've spent money doing the wrong marketing programs, guess what? That's the learning cycle. But when you quit spending, you quit learning and developing and achieving, and you just settle. And so any business that's flat is declining. And the only way to have something that's creating value is if there's growth. So you're going to have to pay more money to executives, more money to professionals, more money to consultants and advisors, more money to your vendors. If you want to have a $30 million business, you're going to have to get over the fact that you're probably going to pay $25 million a year to have a $30 million business. You're not going to have a $30 million business paying $4 million because that's what you're paying now. So all this talk about, oh, I didn't get the value. Well, because you didn't ask the right questions and you didn't seek guidance from the right people. Now convert that to who asking those 3 questions. And if we don't fit into the answer of those questions, you should not listen to us either.
No, that makes perfect sense. And just so you know, what I meant is, and I understand completely that you have to pay for those people to help. Like I understand that, and you should pay for it. I just felt like a lot of them out there at one point that the way they structured it, it wasn't like, hey, I'm paying for this and it's kind of a step program. It was, okay, I gave them a little bit, you're doing good. I guess it's hard to explain. The way they structure
I know, dude, listen, can I tell you something? I live in this world. See, I remember I came from a traditional business background, and this whole consultative, social media, marketing agencies, business advisors, all that's fairly new in the last kind of 10 years to me because we studied a lot of the behavior of those people. And I'll tell you, just because they went and got a certification somewhere doesn't mean you should listen to them. And so the only way a business owner can protect themselves from all that poor guidance, bad advice, is to do their due diligence. So you should go talk to their 3 last clients. How much did you pay them? How long did you work with them? What did they charge you for? What was the process they took you through? If you're asking those questions, you're making an informed decision. And so you're right. There's more bad advice. Can I just say this?
Yeah.
In this whole social space and marketing and media and business advice, 98% of it's horrible. The people that are giving it have actually never done anything. They've chosen their career to be the advisor. So if I'm a business owner and I want that guidance and advice, I have to learn to ask the questions to determine if I should even be talking to them.
No, that makes sense. And I feel like, the coach and the consultant, like everybody's been a fucking consultant in the last couple of years. And I don't say anything if they're helping somebody, then so be it. Who am I to judge? But it has been on the outside looking in. It's just been like you just said, what have some of these people done? Some of them have done something, so I get why people go to them. Or at least on the outside looking in, it looks like they've done something. Some of them, it's like, this guy popped out of nowhere and now he's a coach. You know what I mean? So, and I get it.
100%.
I get these questions
Usually a
all the time.
disenfranchised employee that wants to work for themselves.
Yeah, and I get these questions all the time, like, hey, Gil, should I do this? And I'm like, I don't know. And that's why I'm glad you said what you said to ask those questions. So all of you out there listening, Brandon just told you the questions you should be asking and the answers you should be getting before you decide to work with somebody like that. Because I try to get into the mix because of the podcast and the ins and outs of some of these different things, but I don't know everything. I don't know it all. So I try to guide people or our own business that we have. Try to make those decisions and what we need to do to be successful and, the best educated decisions that I can make and try to learn. But if I don't know, then I'm just going to say I don't know. I'm not going to lie and bullshit somebody. I feel like that happens too often.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm in the HVAC space and I want to know what it's like to take a $15 million business or a $5 million business to $200 million business and sell it for $500 million, I'm going to go talk to Ken Goodrich. I'm not going to talk to some guy that never did it. And so the thing is that you got to know your target. You know why people get bad advice is they don't have their targets. So they're not saying, hey, I'm 5 million, I want to go to 25 million. And then they don't know to ask the questions. Did you build a $25 million business? What did you do in the business? How many employees did you have? What were your profitabilities? Because as soon as they ask 4 or 5 questions, they're going to know if the person's full of it. And so I put the responsibility on the business owner especially now that they've listened to this show, right? So now they have a different level of awareness and thought about how they need to think about who they're getting guidance and advice from. And look, I live in the world where I coach high performance entrepreneurs, business owners, and executives across all industries, all range in size in business. The thing that gets business owners in trouble is the broken thinking of polling versus doing their due, POLLING. Hey, honey, I'm thinking about bringing this person in. What do you think I want to do? Hey, Johnny, what do you think on the golf course? Hey, Fred, hey, you're my supply partner. What do you think about these guys over there or this thing over there? And you're going to get all this guidance from people from their perspective and from their intention. And the problem is people don't generally want to be wrong, especially if they're trying to look right to you. And so they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. And the nature of asking the question and the way you ask the question demonstrates you're uncertain. So if you're going to hedge with somebody on giving them advice, you're always going to hedge to do nothing. It's so logical. And I think this is what your listeners need to understand is that here's the deal. I'm a straight shooter. My business partner, Grant Cardone, is a straight shooter. If you want to ask any question, if somebody wants me to come as a guest on their live Facebook and drill me about the HVAC space, I'm happy to do it. If somebody wants to challenge us on what's happening with the trends in the marketplace over the last 12 years, happy to share all the research of all the material things that have happened in HVAC and home services over the last 12 years. If somebody wants to talk to me about what I know about massive value creation within businesses and organizations and at which level, I'll break it down to the granular details at each break point of the business to 4 billion. Like, I love that shit. But if somebody's just going to scream and yell, hey, you're raiders and you don't know what you're talking about and these guys are scammers and people are going to respond to that, then that's why you're going to continue to make bad decisions because you're listening to the wrong information and you're not getting the right data.
No, I mean, I love that. And you're sitting here saying, hey, people can have those opinions and you'll prove them wrong and you'll do it live in front of everybody to, prove your side. And that says a lot. That's not what somebody who is out here scamming and bullshitting people would do. You know what I mean? They try to get out into the limelight, say what they got to say, and then they back out really quick. Curtain closes really fast.
100%. And what you really need to think about is you need to think about the most recent acquisitions that have taken place, including one that happened last week in California. You need to think about why someone would pay 22 times $500 million for a business that's only $200 million in size. You need to think about why is that engagement? And here's the good news to it. In all of our mapping and data, it shows when that behavior happens, you have about a 60-month window to basically dominate your market. And the reason for that is they buy the big guys, and then they got to go through disruption of organizing them and structuring them and systematizing them. That's what private equity does. And then what happens from there is they try to pick off a couple of regional large players, 25, 50 million, 75 million. Then they got to organize them and consolidate them and synergize them into the business and put them all on the same platforms and operations. Then they go down to the next tier, which are the 15 to $10 million to $20 million businesses. And they just keep putting pressure and pressure and pressure on the system. Now, if you know that's coming and those top guys are getting consolidated, you have about 60 months where you can go from 10 to 20 million to 50 million or 100 million. If you have the right partner, you have the right systems, you have the right structures, and create so much massive value that worst case, you protect your market. And I can break down 30 different industries where we've been able to show that this is exactly what's happened in the last 15 years. When you have science, you have data, and you have a data set team with tens of thousands of different examples of different things that are happening, you make good decisions. And I would just invite anybody who's listening to this, that if you're like, I want to call bullshit on this guy, just come check it out for yourself. If you're listening to this and you're like, I got friends that say otherwise, let's invite them on the live show. Let's have a conversation. I do a live show every Tuesday night. I love it when people come on and tell the world what they think they know and why they think they know it and where they got the information from. And I just ask questions. I don't need to be right. I just need people to realize they're probably wrong. So here's the deal. There's no ego in this for me. My passion is to preserve and impact and empower and create value for family-owned businesses as a remarkable business partner that's not only got our interests, but their interests at heart. If somebody wants to experience that, I always love those relationships. If you don't, then instead of throwing shade at me, go build your own business or go help somebody else. It's that simple. There's no emotion in it for me.
Yeah, people lie, numbers don't. So, and that's just
unless somebody makes them up. Unless somebody makes them up, I've seen plenty of that.
Oh yeah, it's true. Everybody owns a $40 million company, and all of a sudden it's it's really 12.
Yeah, do they? We're in the middle of hundreds of deals. I just get it all the time.
Yeah, well, and that's the social media aspect. Everybody thinks that I would probably say 90% of what you see on social media, regardless of what the group, is lie, and 10% of that is probably truth. It's and I get it. It's that appeal. It's the day and age. You can talk shit to somebody on Facebook, but if you saw that person face to face, you wouldn't say it because you get punched in the mouth. You know what I mean? So it's just.
There's about 8 guys that just keep posting on the social channels about us. I have invited all 8 of them to come on my live show, and not one of them has accepted.
Well, if you need a announcer or like a referee,
you can host it. I'll let you host it. If anybody listens to this show and they're a hater, okay, and they say to you, oh, this, that, the other thing, and they want to do a live show with you, me, and them, because I saw you could put a third person on here.
Yeah,
I would love to do that show with you. Anybody that wants to make a point or ask questions or prove me wrong. Look, and I may very well
put
sometimes.
Right there.
We got a seat right there.
Yep,
anybody
right
can join us. So I accept that because I'm an open book. I'm transparent. Look, and I could be wrong. But if you're gonna come with a bunch of information, let's just make sure the information's correct, and let's make sure the community knows what's real and not. And I'm happy to have those conversations.
That's awesome. I mean, I know we're getting towards the almost over an hour now, and I'm glad I had this conversation because I knew that there was a lot of things going around. I know how these groups work. I know how somebody plants a seed and then the followers start to water it and then it grows. And I like to make my opinions up for myself. I like to talk to people, make up my own mind, not based off what somebody else thinks. And I'm glad that we had this conversation. And like I said, what really speaks to me, Brandon, is the fact that you're sitting here saying, I will talk to anybody whenever we need to. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I just don't think that I'm wrong. That says a lot, because most people say they'll do that, but they won't do it. That's just the truth.
Yeah, we had 75 HVAC owners that were special invites to our growth conference in March. Our opening speaker was Donald Trump. It's the first business conference he's done in 4.5 years, because I asked him to come and talk to our group. And we had a remarkable 3-day lineup. Anybody's welcome to watch those replays. And I guess my point in all this is that we have access and the ability to move the earth for people who want to show up and be a part of it. And I would just invite anybody listening to this, if you're just at least curious, just do your own homework, figure it out, and we're an open book. We'd love to work with forward-thinking business owners, thought leaders, people who want to create value for themselves, their family, their community, their employees. And if you're in that camp, then let's just at least have a dialogue.
Yeah, for sure. People are already saying, when that happens, where can I watch it? John, don't worry. If it gets scheduled and I find something about it, I'll make
it's already happened. We did it in March. So our replay, you go to grantcardone.com / hey, what's the replay for
Well, what did you mean, John? What Brandon was just saying, or if he was to talk to somebody else about the naysayers? That hasn't happened. He's going to give you the replay if you can watch it. I'm not sure what you meant by that.
Yeah. So look, any of your audience, you and I can make a monthly show out of this. Any of your audience that wants to come and pile on, let's do it. I love that stuff.
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
Okay, so if you go to Grant Cardone store, isn't it grantcardone.com / store? We'll find that exactly. But you can watch all those replays. Trump did a great job, by the way. He was right on with the things he talked about.
Oh yeah, the guy is saying the Trump conference. So yeah, that's where you find it at, John. So if people want to work with you and they're interested, in the description of this, I just did the main website, cardoneventures.com. Is that where they should go? Should they go somewhere else?
Yeah, so why don't you do this? Because we've actually shot videos of some of the HVAC. If you go to cardoneventures.com / growth, is that cardoneventures.com / growth? Is that where they can see some of the testimonials?
Yep.
Yeah, so look, the best thing to do is go to cardoneventures.com / growth. And you can actually watch some of the amazing, remarkable home service testimonials that we have, that we're so proud of some of our clients over the last year. cardoneventures.com / growth. And then on there is a registration page, and just put in the notes when you do the registration, if you want to talk to us, that you heard about us on your show. And on our next show, I'll make sure we have a special QR code link that you can put up that drives us into you and I talking about this.
Nice. That's awesome. And hey, you guys are, I'm so glad you came on, Brandon. And if there's anything, I know you have your own show. You don't really need me, but if you need to get out again or come back on so that we can talk about something else, I would love to have you back on. This was a great conversation.
Listen, honestly, I love what you've built. There's nothing more fun for me to get to speak to people who are innovative entrepreneurs that figure things out. I'll come on your show. Anytime you ask me to, I'll come on your show. We can shoot up if you have specific things you want to talk about. If you want to talk about the recent deals that have been done, some of them might not even be public yet. Some might be. If you want to talk about, because our nose and our ears and our eyes are watching everything. Our relationships are paying attention to everything. So any questions, any concerns, any whatever, man, just invite me on and we'll do it together. And if you have any haters, you could turn this into a cage match. We could do a monthly HVAC cage match.
That's great. These techs will love that. Get off work and watch some guys go at it. That sounds like,
let's go.
Grab a few beers and let's fucking rock.
Let's go, man. I love it.
Yeah. I think I know the one person you're talking about in California, but, I won't say it. We didn't say
it's public. It's Ishmael. It's public. He did a good job. You can't take it away from him. And that's his business was entirely different than Ken's business. And so You got to pay attention to what's happening so you see what sectors are hotter. Ken's business is worth more probably than Ishmael's business was worth more because of the nature of the type of business he was doing. So secrets leave clues. You should pay attention to who's buying what and why they're buying it.
Yeah, and that's and I don't know if you know that Ish has nothing to like. It was bought, sold, like he's done, like he's out of it, or
he's going to run it. None of these guys buy anything and want the owner to leave. They tie a big piece of the purchase price up into future operations that over sometimes 2 or 3 years, sometimes 5. I had a 5-year deal because they want them to keep doing what they're doing. They bought it on a future value, so someone has to create that value. And if they don't really get it. So that's another thing that's confusing. People hear these big numbers, but up to 50% of those numbers may never happen if they don't future perform. So now you've sold yourself to be an employee to somebody else. And a lot of business owners don't do well there. And when they don't do well, they get fired or they leave, and then they don't get a big piece of the payout.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think I would be, I'd love to have you back on just to kind of break it down, like some of these things, because I think some people don't understand what it takes to sell their business, all the little things that are involved. And not saying they should sell it, but I know a lot of people, they talk about it like, hey, I've been doing this. I'm talking about retire. I have nobody else to give it to. I have no kids, yada, yada, yada. I want to
If you're thinking of selling your business, man, you cannot be having those conversations. I'm telling you, I'm just going to give you and I should do a whole series on how to maximize the value of a business if you're thinking of selling it. And here's the thing. You should run your business every day like you're going to sell it, because that means you're getting the most value and you can put that money other places. But the biggest mistake in selling a business is you think you're trying to become friendly with the buyers and you say way too much. And then at closing, they bring it all back out, use it against you, and they dangle some money in front of you. And then they take 30-40% off the purchase price. And by that time, your team knows about it. People are already leaving because they're upset. They're not getting paid anything. And they wait for the disruption. I can tell you, I've done enough deals that you can predict almost 100% of the time, based on the first 3 to 5 meetings you've had with the business owner, if you're going to be able to watch this disruption and devaluation of the business happen towards closing, which is why they always do an escrow account. They always extend closing. They always want to talk to your team before you close, because they know that they can cause that dissension and fracturing, and it devalues your business. And there's the quality of earnings audit they use to beat you over the head into submission, and the contracts you don't have in place, all this stuff. I'm just telling you, no one should sell their business if they don't come to one of my 10X exit programs, where I just teach you what they're all going to be looking for and to make sure you don't make those mistakes.
That is awesome. We'll definitely do that. I definitely would like to, stay in touch, talk to you, have you back on. I would love to do that series. So we'll make that work, after this. Any kind of value we can give to people that, out here. And plus, I learned from it. I was a technician who worked my way up the ladder. I'm not some guru who knows everything. So I love doing these things just as much because it helps me. It helps me learn, all those different things. So
yeah, and let you know, I was a 2.4 GPA, barely got out of high school, didn't go to college, and I learned everything by doing it and failing and picking my ass up and doing it again. So fancy degrees and all that shit, I hire those people, and a lot of them don't work out for me. So I like the grinders, the people who've pulled themselves up, and I respect those people. So let's do this. Anybody on social media that wants to get a hold of me too and follow me, it's at Brandon M. Dawson on Instagram, at Brandon, BRANDON MDAWSON. Connect with me on social media. You can see what I'm up to.
That's cool. Well, hopefully I tagged this on Instagram, and I know it looked like your picture, so I hope I tagged the right person and not some random.
Yeah, well, and so sorry, I'm running an algorithm for all those people that are trying to sell Bitcoin and scam people. So I have I'll go through. I'll look for yours and I'll accept it in.
Okay, yeah, it's just HVAC Uncensored, and I did it to Cardone Ventures, and then I was like, oh well, let me do it to Brandon himself if I could find it, and I thought the picture looked like you, and I was like, watch me tag the wrong person, and this guy's like, who the fuck's Gil, and why is he tagging me in this post?
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll tag you back here in a minute.
Cool.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for having me on your show. Great show. Appreciate it.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. And definitely after this, I'll get in touch with email. We'll stay in touch. And
Let's do it.
yeah, because I could love to ask you a million questions. Plus that idea of coming.
Yeah,
back
well,
on,
I'll invite you to one of my workshops. You can come as my guest and see what we actually do, meet the people that we do it with. That way you'll be educated instead of the people that are reading it off of Facebook.
That sounds awesome. I'd be honored to do that.
Let's go, man. Let's go. Thank you.
Let's go. Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to close this out. Have a good night, sir. Wow, guys, that was amazing, man. That's why I was so looking forward to having this podcast, because I know that so much stuff goes through the airways, goes through social media, and a lot of us, we don't know what to believe. And I get it. I fall into the same trap that you guys do. Just because I do a podcast doesn't mean I know the truth about everything. I do get to talk to, some people and have relationships with people, which is awesome. But I still don't know everything. I'm still learning, finding things out the way you guys do sometimes by a Facebook post or whatever it is, a YouTube video, a article, something like that. So I was really, really awesome to have this. Like I said, I got to watch my friends Tersh and Josh from the Service Business Mastery podcast interview Brandon at AHR in Las Vegas. And I wanted to stay there the whole time because it was very intriguing. I was like, man, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. And after talking to Brandon, any doubts that I had, I lost them. I didn't have many, to be honest. I try to see everything at face value and let somebody kind of prove me wrong. And you got to admit, a guy that's saying, hey, any naysayer, we can go live and we'll talk about anything. You know what I mean? He's backing himself up. So if anything, you got to give credit where credit's due, and he's willing to face off with any naysayers and back it up. So you got to give a lot of credit there. You really, really do. And I would love to see it. So anybody out there wants me to be the mediator and come on and you guys go at it, I'll sit in the back, smoke a few cigarettes, and let you guys, I'll sit back, take notes, and learn some shit. I'm down. But I will stay in the back and talking to Brandon about maybe trying to get him to come back on. And you guys know to be able to ask the questions and stuff like that. Write them down and don't be afraid to put those questions in the comments. Ask them. Use the podcast to your advantage. Ask those questions of the experience of the guests that we have on. All right? But it's getting late. I got to roll. I got to go pick up my son here in a second. But thank you guys, man. Please don't forget to go ahead and like on all the social media platforms. So really it's on Instagram, Facebook, so the Facebook group, HVAC Uncensored, as well as the Facebook page, so the business page, HVAC Uncensored Podcast. And then obviously download the podcast every week. If you wouldn't mind checking it out, if you could go to the Facebook page and leave a review. I know I pushed them a lot and I stopped. If you guys could go leave me a review, that would mean the world to me. The more we do, the more this can get out to other people. I can try to help as many people as possible. All right? And obviously, if you're liking on all the social media platforms, you're always up to date on everything the podcast is doing. And now that we're back on track after the computer issues, there is nothing down. 2 shows this week. 2 shows next week, getting them all back in, getting back on the saddle. So I'm pretty sure next week it's Wednesday and Thursday. So obviously we'll be here every Wednesday until whenever. And then I have other shows booked in, trying to double up to play catch up for when I was down. All right. And once again, there was no audio podcast last week. There was a video, but the guest lost his power and kind of fell out halfway through. It ended up being a good live show talking to the guest, but it wouldn't have made much sense to put out the audio, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I love you guys, man. Be safe out there, all right? We always got to make it home the same way we left. We all have somebody to go home to, all right? Do the little things. Set yourself apart from the next guy. Every fucking week we talk about that. We give little tips and hints from our guests and other people on how to make yourself better and stand out from the competition and stand out from the next guy, all right? Until next week, I love you, motherfuckers, and I'll talk at you later, all right? Peace. Gotta find the button. Peace. There it is.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored Podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions